What's the number one thing that can ruin your Disney vacation above everything else?
Look at my lips, you're ruining it.
Well, let me tell you, it's not the cost. It's not knowing the reservation system. It's not knowing Genie Plus. The ultimate thing that will ruin your vacation is if you do not set proper expectations.
I was not expecting that. But I was expecting not to expect something, so it doesn't count.
Now, the thing is that Disneyland is known as the happiest place on earth. Disney World is known as the most magical place on earth. And their marketing,
to all who come to this happy place, welcome.
That's extremely high expectations of perfection. And the problem is, as amazing as those parks are, they do not always live up to that perfection.
I'm practically perfect in every way. Practically perfect, so people say.
This can be for many reasons, but they don't know what your expectations are. And now that they've got you there, they cannot always meet them. I've gone to a lot of theme parks over the last couple of years. I usually go in outside of Disney World knowing that I'm going to have a pretty hard time fitting on a lot of things. The only time that's ever really become a challenge for me, if you've watched my walkthroughs, you'll remember it was Sand Serpent at Busch Gardens, Tampa.
See about the kids coaster, Sand Serpent. Sorry, apparently that's Sand Serpent. I called this a kid coaster. I think I was wrong. Oops, because nobody in line's a kid. All right, you do have to put both your legs under one side of the bar. So, but I did fit and it worked. Well, that was embarrassing. It started to go and then they stopped it. And they said I need to push it down a little bit more. I got one more click down. They said they needed one more. Could not get it there. So had to get off the ride. That was embarrassing. Anyway. But if you're just a little bit smaller than me, you should be able to make it fit.
Now, walking off roller coasters isn't normally a big thing for me, but I had set my expectations in that moment that I was going to be able to fit. Now, if you've watched my walkthroughs, you know that's an unusual reaction for me. Normally, I am an excited and bubbly person because I know I'm not going to fit on a lot of things and my expectations are pretty low. But at that moment, my expectations had been raised. I was recently listening to Dean Graciosi, and he was telling about this time he was on an international flight many years ago, and they had announced it was the first time they were going to have Wi-Fi on the plane.
And just in case I wasn't stupid enough to notice my own self, I get on the plane and the thing they announce is, guess what? We have internet. Now, if you don't fly a lot domestically, I don't know if domestically they allow internet here, but in America, everybody has internet. But when you come to Australia, for some reason, Qantas doesn't have internet, but they announce we have internet, and people on the frickin' plane are cheering internet. Thank God! Thank God we can stay connected for 14 hours in the middle of the sky. God forbid we were read or sleep or watch a frickin' movie. And people are like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing. Hear people cheering and so excited about it. And what do you think happened after about 30 minutes of it's working? What do you think happened? And now, I'm sorry, we're having technical difficulties. It's not working. People are like, oh my God, can you believe this? Half an hour ago was a miracle. Now you're pissed the miracle's gone. You expect it every day.
Suddenly, everybody was ticked. They had just lost something they did not even know they were ever going to get 8 minutes beforehand, and it completely changed their expectation of the trip. So how do you set your expectations for Disney World? This is you might not ride every ride at Magic Kingdom. You might not get that pass on Tron, but these are the things you want to do. Now, set that aside and say, I am going to expect to get 75% of these things. If you have a small list of essentials, you cannot expect to get them all. Necessarily, but usually you can get 3/4 of them. Now, if you go in knowing that, you're pretty set. Understand that while you think you might not be going at a crowded time, that doesn't mean it's not going to be crowded. The calendar over the last few years has been pretty wonky. And so not everything is as normal as it was before all of that. We all set our expectations for this is what we're going to have, and if those are not met, we end up being disappointed. And this is difficult because we do want to have high expectations.
But he's got high hopes. He's got high hopes.
We do want to believe ourselves worthy. We do want to think well of ourselves. But sometimes, unfortunately, that does not always work out. We can't control everything, so we need to have proper expectations set on those things that we can control.
And you can't control the elements, but you can control your attitude and you can control your mindset.
We can have expectations that we're going to do our research. We're going to understand the reservation system and plan it far in advance. We can understand that we might not know everything and probably might be best to talk to a travel agent, somebody that's not really an upcharge, but you can get and they'll know a lot more about Disney World. If you're a plus size person like me, have the expectation that you might not fit on everything, but you'll fit on most things, and there's plenty for you to do. You already know if you've watched my walkthrough videos, and those should help you set your expectation, or if you've bought my guide with the checklist, you know the challenges you may have on different rides, that most of the things you'll be able to fit on, but here are the things that you might have a little bit trouble with, such as Flight of Passage. When you see someone cussing out a cast member in a park, it's always because their expectations were not met. They had certain expectations, we also can call them entitlements, that they were going to have this experience and it was going to be perfect and they were going to get exactly what they wanted, and it did not work out for whatever reason. And so they are taking it out on the only person that happens to be in the vicinity for them to take it out on. Now they've embarrassed themselves, they've hurt a cast member, and they've probably embarrassed their family.
Never should have messed with a match family.
Speaking of family, set your expectations with your family. Find out what rides are most essential to them. What snacks do they want to make sure they try? The 50th anniversary of Disney World just ended, and it was an 18-month-long ceremony. The problem is, it didn't really meet anybody's expectations. You see, in previous ceremonies for the 25th and the 40th, I think, and the 15th, they had really gone all out. This year, it was some nice statues and some costumes and a lot of merchandise. Nobody really felt bad to see it go, especially with Happily Ever After coming back afterwards. Now, obviously, the best way to set your expectations is to do as much research as possible so you know kind of what to expect and what's happening at the parks. Make sure to check out my playlist of all the Disney parks with all the walkthroughs, and you'll know if you're a plus-size person, what you can likely fit on and what's going on in the parks.